We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
What is up, Cal fans? We are back with another episode of the California Golden Bearcast, which is our formal name. Proud member of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Andy. I am the host tonight, technically still a co-host. Alongside me, we have our insider. You've never heard of him before, Rob. And we are going to do a very special edition of the Bearcast where I actually give a little bit of an interview to Rob to figure out what's been happening with Cal Camp. But before we get into that, what's happening in Emeryville, my friend? What's going on?
I don't know that I have any insider news. I literally just went to practice and wrote what I saw. If you didn't read what I wrote, it's on RifeForCalifornia.com. You can check it out there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm an insider. I don't have any inside scoops. All I can talk about is what I saw in the field, which was not that many. There were only 9 open practices. I missed 2. And the last one is actually in 3 days' time on Saturday. So that's all I am going off of.
Well, I do think you sell yourself a little bit short, and maybe there is a little left to be desired on the whole hype front that I was building you up towards.
I just want people to know that I don't have the answers to everything, and this is like purely based off of like what I saw with my own 2 eyes. And if you're okay with my takes and my view on stuff, I guess that's why you listen to our show. You listen to Andy and my takes, and rarely do we like break any news on the podcast or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. You're gonna get the verbal version of all I saw at camp.
So here's the thing: we do break news on this podcast. It just happens to be fake, so it's not real.
Yeah.
The one time we did break it,
right,
it wasn't real.
Right.
We're still with Under Armour.
Yep.
Devastating. All right, enough of that. I'm back to hype mode. I am once again going to interview Rob here. We're going to pretend that he did not say everything that he just said and that he is an insider for the program. And we're going to learn a lot today about what's been going on at Cal Camp. For those of you that haven't had the time to read the articles, this is a great way to cheat. And since we went to the University of California, Berkeley, we don't do that at all. Wink, wink. All right. So let's kick it off.
Oh, shoot.
So first we're going to, how this is organized, I'm just going to give a little bit of agenda here. We have fall camp general questions, and then we're going to work in some injury talk. For those that don't know, there have been a fair amount of injuries this fall camp. We're going to talk about coaches, and then we're going to go zoom out, just look at overall, but we're not going to tease too much because we will have a preseason hype episode coming, and I don't want to overshadow that too much and force Rob into a prediction. that he will inevitably change within potentially a week.
Yes.
All right. Outside of OB Town actually being open and not closed, what was the biggest surprise of fall camp so far?
The biggest surprise of fall camp. I'd have to say the expansion of the offense. You definitely see a lot more. I mean, it's fall camp, right? And Andy, you've been a part of fall camps, and you know how this kind of goes. But you kind of install your offense or install your defense. In short, like small amounts, right? At each practice, you're doing something different. Like emphasis is something else. You're teaching the guys something different, and like adding on to the previous days of practice. So, fall practice. All right, just to backtrack, right? It's Wednesday, August 18th. So a week and a half ago on Friday is when fall camp first started, and the last fall camp so far that we were allowed to attend was this past Saturday, and that was like a scrimmage day. So realistically, they'd only been in camp for a week, and that includes a full off day as well. So all things considered, they're chugging along slowly. Like they're implementing new things and new like offensive schemes and different personnel groupings, and at least from the offensive side. Defense, I think we all kind of already know what to expect from a production standpoint and also from a schematic standpoint. There might be little small things that we change here and there and add in some new wrinkles, but all in all, it's the same offense that's run by Coach Wilcox and of course now Coach Sermon, and then Coach Hayward as well, the new outside linebackers coach that's come in. So the biggest surprise definitely has been the offense and just seeing, wow, but there's just moments of, oh, we're doing that now. Like I don't remember seeing that in any of the 2020 games, which leans even more into the whole argument of we didn't open our playbook in 2020, which Nico Remigio actually did comment on, and he said that we played really conservative last year. We didn't showcase everything that our offense can do, and it's been more. He said something about like the offense being more expansive, this season, and so I think that just plays a part into that and just helps support the fact that the offense is going to be pretty different compared to what we were doing last season.
And can you speak maybe a little bit more specifically to a position group? If you were to say, do you see that expanding in regards to the running back being, the run game being featured differently? Or do you see that expanding in regards to the receivers or tight end playing a different role with somebody like Jermaine Terry now with the team? Like, what do you I know you probably can't expand entirely into what the expansion is, but just trying to see if I can dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people should remember is that from a skill position group, we're relatively young, and by young I mean depth wise. So a lot of these guys are learning this type of pro style offense for the first time, particularly at the tight end group, definitely, and the wide receiver group. Because I mean, let's break down a little bit, right? You look at the wide receiver group and the guys that carry over from last year. Trayvon carries over from last year. Nico carries over from last year. Kekoa carries over from last year. Like those are probably our three starter guys at the top of the rotation. And then you have a whole bunch of young guys that are on the roster, didn't see the field at all last year, and two pretty outstanding freshmen that have now come in underneath, right? So you got like guys like Monroe Young, who's been around the program for about 3 years now. You got Justin Baker. You've got Jeremiah Hunter. Now you have J. Mike, and you add Anderson and guys like Aiden Lee, and so there's a whole wide range of guys at the skill positions that are learning. And I think honestly, Hunter said it in his post practice interview where he was like, it was nice just being on the sidelines last year, just because I got to absorb everything, what they're being asked to do, what the older guys do, and how they do it. And you see that kind of playing a big role into this season, where a lot of the younger guys look way more ready to play now than they probably would have if we saw them last year. And I think that COVID year I think allowed them, at least a lot of them, to focus more on the mental aspect of the game and getting the mental reps in and learning the playbook and getting the words and just the little things down. And then the play on the field, that'll take care of itself because the guys are so talented. So I think the wide receiver, and so to answer your question, I think the wide receiver group is probably one, and the tight end group is probably the other. I think the tight end group got deep over one offseason, which is incredible. I mean, we talk about Jermaine Terry all the time, but Keleki Latu is I don't know how to explain him. He's such a unique body type at that position. He looks like a super tall wide receiver, but he's at tight end. He's 6'7". His catch radius is insane. I've seen him make 2 catches during the practices we were at that were like, how in the hell is anyone supposed to guard against that? Like, you're not going to see many corners in the Pac-12 that are above 6'2", right? That, like, you're not going to see that body type. So to put a 6'7" tight end either far out wide or, attached to the line and sending him out on routes against an outside linebacker or a deep corner, like, you can overthrow him and he'll still catch it. Like, he's 6'7", and then Jermaine Terry is just a force of nature. Like, you think he's gonna go on a pass route, and then you see a 6'7", like 285 bowling ball coming at you, like blocking you downhill. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. So I think those are the two of the biggest groups, and of course the older guys at tight end too. Like Tonjes, I think still will probably be the starter on game 1. He has the best command of what he's being asked to do, and leads the younger guys, and is probably the best all around tight end that we have as of right now. So I think those are the 2 groups that have been the little groups that I think you should keep an eye on moving forward, at least offensively.
Okay, so it sounds like we've added depth at tight end, which is something I feel like we haven't necessarily felt outside. Some guys that we may remember, we may not, over the years. So that's great to hear. Now I am obligated to check in on my favorite player, Damian Moore. How has Damian Moore looked?
I think he's taken a lot of the reps with the first team and the second team, and that's probably because he led the team in rushing last year. So, just from the stats of last season, you're probably you won't cement him as the number 1, but he's going to be in the mix for the 1s and 2s. But I mean, I said this in the comment section for one of my notebooks, or either in the comment section or I wrote it in my notebook itself. The running backs look faster, and I know speed is relative, and I don't think we still have that breakaway speed yet, where a dude can just bust out hit the gap and then he's just gone, like no one's catching him. I don't think we have that type of speed yet, but I do think our speed has gotten better. Christopher Brooks, formerly Christopher Brown Jr., looks faster. He looks more nimble on his feet. I don't know if it's the strength and conditioning or the emphasis that AT, Coach Aerosol Thompson, has brought into that running backs room, but they're a lot more agile. They're a lot more nimble on their feet. They're doing a lot more footwork drills, like keeping upright and body balance. So it's cool to see that transformation of all the guys. In terms of the running game as a whole with the running backs, that's a TBD. We got our first look at like contact on Saturday, but it was thud period, which means like it's not full tackle going to the ground. It's like contact and then it's the end of the play. So you don't really get the sense of how like physical the run game is or what it's going to be capable of doing in between the tackles. Maybe we'll see that this Saturday if they actually go like full live tackling. I haven't heard one way or another if it is going to be a live tackle period or full contact period or practice, or if it isn't. But that'll be something interesting to watch on Saturday if they actually do the live tackling.
Great. And I think one of the areas that everyone's probably pretty curious about is just looking on the offensive side, who's the biggest or best weapon that we have?
Oh God. Like if I were to just pick one dude.
Yeah, got to choose one.
God. I mean, Can I pick two? Or just
Fine.
go?
1A, 1B.
1A, 1B. I think in terms of pure offensive weapon, right? I think Kaleki Latu, and I'm going to be saying his name a lot. I think a lot of Cal fans are going to be saying his name a lot. I think he's at the tight end spot. He's the guy that you got to be looking at and saying, "Oh, like he's going to play. He's going to play a lot in a lot of specific situations, and he's an immediate red zone threat. Like, he's a tight end who's 6'7". Like, I don't know how you don't get him onto the field in red zone situations and just toss it up and ask him to go get it.
So are you seeing a like Arcega Whiteside type mold out of him? Is that sort of what?
No.
If you were to ground.
No, because Arcega Whiteside, I think they kind of transitioned him into a bigger bodied wide receiver, right? In terms of Latu, like he's hands in the dirt, like attached. He's playing as an H-back, like he's out wide, and they motion him inside into the slot. Like they're I mean, that's all the tight ends, right? That's not only Kaleki, but with Kaleki's body type, they're still putting him in the tight end situations. So they haven't transitioned him into a wide receiver spot. So we're going to see him all over the field. But it's just we haven't had that type of body type, right? We haven't had a 6'7" wide receiver who can just go up and get it if you just toss the ball up to him. So I think that's why he's just such a unique weapon to have. I mean, we have the speedsters, right? We have the Bakers, we have the Remigios, we have like the all-around types of like Kekoa and Trayvon, who have great hands. We haven't had like just I'm like 7 inches taller than you, and I'm gonna just grab the ball out of the air before you can even touch it. We haven't had those types, so that's why it's so intriguing to me to have a guy like Kaleki in the roster.
Really seems like that's straight from the David Shaw playbook, or the Stanford playbook of yesteryear, in that they used to have those super tall guys, and we would have elite defensive backs, and it didn't matter because they could just elevate the ball, and you're lining up. If you're 6 feet and you're going up against someone that's 6'7", well, unless you have an insane vertical, and the other person doesn't have any vertical, that's really the only situation in which it's not going to be an advantage to the offense. Yeah. That is one of the more exciting things, I think, that we've probably heard on the offensive side of the football in a while, because it actually adds an entirely different dimension to what we're doing in regards to player personnel,
right,
that we haven't had.
I mean, people also forget, like, we have a new tight end coach, right, who has NFL pedigree, and you have an offensive coordinator who has really long NFL pedigree, and the two of them actually work together in Denver. So there's a lot of continuity there, and I think Coach Jeep knows what Coach Musgrave wants out of his tight ends, and he's coaching them up to do so, and giving him, more different types of body types, different types of like play styles that Musgrave can work with, but at the same time giving all of the tight ends that same foundation of, this is how you play with your hands in the dirt, this is how you block, this is how you go out on routes, like this is how you pass pro, like if you're in the H-back spot, this is how you're cutting across the block, and so on. So I think the foundation is there. It's just the potential of all these different types of tight ends is intriguing, to say the least. Just seeing that, because I think most football watchers that are Cal fans, like, the one thing we've always wanted is build out a tight end spot. Like, you can pass catch with them, you can block with them. Like, it's just such a nice position to have in your offense, and we just haven't had that for a long time. I know we've wanted to do it under Wilcox. I feel like this is finally the first year that we actually have a stable of tight ends that can do everything that we want. Like, they're not just a blocker, or they're not just a pass catcher. Like, they're actually, all of them have a versatile skill set now.
Well, I think I go back directly to the first Wilcox press conference, which, he said he's going to bring back the tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been waiting almost on that.
Took a while.
For a while. And it sounds like we're here. So with about 3 minutes left, because I'm going to time this out to be about 20 minutes per segment here, give me your best defensive weapon, knowing I have one more question to ask after that.
Defensive weapon? I mean, the easiest answer here is Chiggy. He's definitely been the best DB so far, he's been outstanding, and it's been so fun to watch his development, just to see how far he's come and how good he is now, and he also prides himself on being the best trash talker on the team. So it is fun seeing that, and you hear the guys yell it a lot too. So when you're at practice, you'll hear a lot of the trash talking that occurs if you sit closer to the field. But I'd have to say Chiggy defensively, but the dark horse candidate here, I think, is just the D line as a whole, because there's so much depth there that we haven't had. We have depth at nose guard, we have depth at end, and then now moving Coin to the outside at outside linebacker / DE, like it's terrifying. Like, as if I'm an offensive coordinator, like planning, like, do I slide my protections to shift against, like, Coin, who's 6'7" and has, like, can play all the passing lanes, or do I shift it to Cam Good, who's arguably one of the best outside linebackers in the conference? Like, I don't know what I do. And then you have, the three guys in the middle that just can eat up space now, and are good. And with Luke Beckett now officially being back too, that rotation with the younger guys that have come in, like Derek Wilkins and Achille and J.H. Tevis's development, and Stanley and Ricky Correa, like, there's just so many guys that are now that Andrew Browning has bodies to work with, versus the last few years. Like, we've struggled to put bodies out there, which is why we put Brett Johnson, who's probably best suited to play defensive end, has been playing nose guard. Like, we just haven't had the bodies, but now we do. And so that's the big thing to watch, is to see how much can the defensive line now impact the line of scrimmage on defense, and how much can they get pressure and plug the run gaps. I think that'll play a big part into how the rest of the defense plays now, and puts a huge, like, new dimension on what this defense can do.
That, I think, would be a very welcome sight to many Cal fans, in that we've just not quite ever had that intimidation factor. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of it through blitzes, but we disguises, but we haven't necessarily been able to just match up in a really positive way on the D line.
Yeah.
So that's great to hear. All right, I'm going to move us on. We're going to move over to the coaching side. Give us the most fun new coach on the staff. And I called this the GA question. Who is the GA of this new coaching group?
I think the most interesting person to talk to, and it's a two-parter, because I think the most interesting person to talk to, and the easiest one to talk to, like, you'll get fun answers out of, is probably Coach Christ, the new tight ends coach. But the most, like, fun, and you'll get the best sound bites out of, it's a toss-up between Coach Watson and Coach Thompson. Like, Thompson has some really good, like, one-liners that you'll hear. He's just super fun to talk to. But yeah, I think those two guys are probably, like, they match up for sound bites. But Chris definitely is, like, he's willing to, like, open up and talk to you about whatever. So, like, talking to him about the tight ends and stuff. Like, if you haven't had a chance, like, go to the Cal Bears YouTube channel and watch the post game presser with Jeep. Like, he's very insightful. And he has coach speak, but he also doesn't have coach speak. So he'll use coach speak in certain circumstances, but, like, there's a lot of times where he just says, as if you're, like, talking to him over a coffee. So it's real nice to talk to Coach Jeep. But I'd say probably those three guys.
And as you look at positional groups, who is, are the takers still going to be the most fun to watch during games? Is it even called the Takers anymore? Have they evolved the name?
They have evolved the name.
Okay, give us the new name, and then also, will that be the group for us to focus attention to?
Okay.
Or on as fans?
I can't remember who told me this, whether it was Elijah Hicks or it was Chicky, but they did say, I was like, is there a new name for the, and he said Coach Watson he said it's not official yet, but they kind of want that group to be like the go guys or the go team. And what he means by that, it's like, just going after interceptions, going after the tackle, going after the play, going after practice, like, just always on go. And I think that name might catch on, honestly. That But in terms of like the DBs and the takers and are they there? I don't know. They're very young. It's a very, very young DB group. You might not think that it is, but it is in terms of experience and playtime. Because look, Elijah Hicks, starter. You got Daniel Scott, who's a rotation guy with the takers, right? And then you got Chiggy, who's been a rotation guy. And then you got Josh Drayden, who's been a rotation guy / your nickel corner, who has been running at cornerback with the ones too. So I think he's your starting cornerback alongside Chiggy, probably, most likely. And then he slots into the nickel when you go into a nickel package, and probably someone else comes on and plays at corner. I would think it's probably going to be, I don't know, who would I say?
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
I don't have my notes on me, so probably one of the younger guys. But yeah, Jalen Martin maybe. So looking at that, the rest of the roster, it's like you got like Raymond Woody, the transfer from FSU, Isaiah Humphries, transfer from Penn State, and then like Craig Woodson, and Tyson McWilliams, and oh goodness, it's like quizzing me on all these names and numbers that I have tried to memorize over the last week and a half, but. You get my point. There's a lot of names under there that as a Cal fan, you probably haven't heard. Maybe ever. If you're not like an into the weeds roster guy like some of us are. So with that being said, like that's why those guys are, I think, going to be good, but also it's a question mark. Because we just haven't seen them take like 85% of the snaps in a game and be the number one guy. Like Chiggy is going to have to be our number one corner. But he's never been in that role before. Like, will he be able to step up into that role? I think he can, but until the ball's kicked and football's played, we just won't know. And some of the rotation guys, in at the safety position outside of Hicks, it's like those guys are going to get a significant number of more snaps. Will they be able to perform at that level with those amount of snaps versus being set up in certain situations and being told like small little details to do? So. That's why I don't want to put too much pressure on this group of DB guys. I think the potential is there to be as good as the takers, maybe even better. Maybe it's not this year. Fingers crossed it is this year. But that's kind of where I'm at with that DB group. It's like I don't think it's going to be the strength of this defense, at least for this season.
That to me is actually shocking. I would have thought with the depth, Chiggy playing 2 last year, and Elijah Hicks being a member of the takers, plus you're talking about guys that are slotting in that have experience. Josh Drayden's made, he's had 2 of the most impressive defensive games I've ever seen a defensive back play. I specifically remember that Washington State game where he played out of his damn mind. So to me, that's very surprising that would be the group that has the big question mark. Just because of past precedent, and then also because you're not talking about resetting down to super young guys that have never played before. Mm-hmm. You're just talking about like expectations in regards to these guys kind of meeting the moment more so than anything else.
Right.
All that to say, that's appreciated, and it's very, very interesting. So as far as what positional group will take the biggest leap this year versus last season, I feel like you kind of touched on that with defensive line, but I'm opening it up to maybe more specifically a specific coach having the biggest impact at that positional group year over year, and whether it be new or one of the returning coaches.
So that's actually a really interesting question because the one group that I've been able to focus on a lot during practice because of where I sit is the inside linebackers and Coach Sermon. Like, just sitting there and watching Coach Sermon coach the inside linebackers, like, on what they do and how he talks to them and how he coaches them up, it's very interesting. If you ever have the chance to come to practice and watch, like, sit during the individuals, like, or like group drills, sit in front of the inside linebackers. It's so much fun to watch if you're a big, like, football nerd, because he's, like, talking about, like, all right, like, when you're in this zone and, like, this specific zone set and you're in this play, like, because they're in tandem, right? It's always two inside linebackers. Like, what do you do here? Like, when he shifts and you follow this guy, like, what are you supposed to tell? Like, who do you tell on the outside? What is their assignment? Like, and it's this, like, pseudo quiz Jeopardy, but, like, you're also moving with your body and, like, making sure you're in the right spot and how you're, like, turned and where your hips are facing, like, all of that. Like, it's just so much, it's so intriguing because you don't realize how much is going through, like, an inside linebacker's mind in terms of the spatial awareness around you. Like, if the guy's coming in this way, then I have to make sure to like hand signal or, like, verbally tell my partner or the corner outside to do this, to cover, because I'm taking but it's super, super intricate and super interesting. So I highly recommend you do that. So in terms of, like, the coach that's probably going to make the biggest jump or coaching wise in terms of their position group, it's got to be the inside linebackers. Every name that you see at inside linebacker this year is going to be relatively new, right? Like, we don't have the Coin Dang or the Evan Weaver or the Jordan Kanasic anymore. Like, our starting linebacker this year could be Iosefa and Tattersall. Like, and those are two guys that, sure, we've seen, like, flashes, right, and moments of, but we haven't seen them, like, going like, oh yeah, he's like a for sure guy on the 2 deep. Like, we don't talk about those guys' names that much. But we're going to have to this year because it's going to be that rotation of probably Tattersall, Iosefa, Trey Pastor, who looks really good at inside linebacker just because of his frame and where he's coming from, being a safety, and his ability to read the game from that spot. And then Anselatos. Those are probably your 4 guys that are in that 2 deep rotation, and who knows who the 2 starters are out of that group. I honestly think it could be if you told me to bet 2 names out of those 4 who'd be the starter, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Like, they've been mixing and matching every single person, and I think it's because they want to try and find which tandem works the best, on top of them maybe doing, like, heavy rotating so that they need those reps with your other partner, right, or another guy, so you're not only glued to, like, oh yeah, I'm Tattersall's partner, like, and I know what he does, like, from just a mental standpoint, like, I know what his tendencies are, so I know how to cover for him and he knows how to cover for me. But instead, you need all those reps with all the other guys to be able to cover and be able to mix and match. So I think that's what they're going for. It's way early in fall camp too. It was only week 1, so that's probably why they were rotating. But yeah, I mean, those 4 guys are definitely probably the 4 names I'm thinking of. I mean, Iosefa hasn't really been a part of camp. He's been doing his own, like, training and stuff, but coaches also hasn't said that he's, like, out long term. The only, like, real long term guys that we've heard of that's out is, of course, Brett Johnson. General Williams has had to retire. That's offensive line. Of course, we all know about Mike Safel, who's medically retired as well. And then Caleb Ilarms or KEO, he's out. Hisatake also out. So those are the only ones we know for sure are out for the year. We don't know about all the other guys that have had little nicks. Like, we've seen them at practice. They just haven't been, like, fully practicing with the team. So we'll see how that goes. But I think those, regardless, we saw how good Iosefa was last year, right? That Oregon game, I think, that alone is huge. So we know that he has the talent. But yeah, inside linebacker.
Feels like a good group and an exciting group because a lot of people are looking at Sermon and wondering both with him and Hayward how the defense is going to look.
Mm-hmm.
And probably there's a lot of eyes and a lot of judgment going to be coming his way this year.
Mm-hmm.
So let's transition now over to injuries because you kind of talked on a couple of players that I believe have suffered injuries a bit during fall camp. So first, let's take a high-level view of this. Does it feel like there's more injuries this year than in years past?
I wouldn't say there's more injuries. I think it's just on par. I mean, you've been around teams to know, like, injuries during camp, it's like there's so many freak injuries. They're not like hamstring injuries, right? Where you're like running and you like pulled up a hammy. Like if we had a bunch of guys just pulling up their hammies, like that's when you know there's an issue with like the strength and conditioning program and it, you know, other things that went wrong. But, you know, in the game of football in the moment, like there's just so many things that can happen. Like injuries are abound in the game of football. So I don't think there's necessarily more. Does it feel like there's more? Probably just because we've seen them a lot more, but and like we're seeing all the guys like out. But that's the question I have would be like how many of those guys are like injured or like, you know, just like let's say nicked up, right? You know, like maybe they sprained their ankle very lightly and they're just out for a couple days. Like how many of those guys in a regular like scenario would just be like working out in the gym downstairs? But like because we had that entire year of COVID, like how many of those guys are now more willing to spend more time out on the field, right? Like just on the bike or doing other exercises like along the field. So I don't know the answer to that question, and it might play a part into why we see more guys like just doing like warm up stuff on the side. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's neither like more or less, just circumstances.
Right. That's fair.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
That's fair. You can kick the can down the road on that one. I'll allow it.
Honestly, I don't know. I just don't know.
Who is the biggest loss so far of those that have gone down?
I mean, it's Brett Johnson. I mean, there's no question about it. I think the fact that he was the only player on the roster going into the spring game listed at defensive line, like everyone else had a position, right? And this dude's position is an entire group. Like that just if you're a football fanatic, like that just got you hyped, because that means that there's no like he's versatile enough that they're gonna play him at nose, they're gonna play him at end, like who knows, they might have stood him up and played him at outside linebacker too. Like we just won't know this season. But it has to be Brett Johnson. The dude was primed for like this is his like year, because like his first year it was his freshman year playing nose guard, right? Last year it was COVID. And then this year was going to be like his full like year with all those years of like strength and conditioning, and then his injury happens. And it's just like what can you do? And he's out for the year. At least that's what they're still saying. So, which is weird because we had a press conference with him, so I was like, "Oh, is he coming back?" But then he's like, "No. Like, you know, my recovery's on schedule and I'm just trying to get back whenever I possibly can." So, I was like, "Oh, okay." It's a non-eventful news presser with a guy who's injured, but okay. But yeah, I think it has to be Brett Johnson. I don't think there's anyone else that can take that spot. I mean, if I were to choose like one offensive player, I think Mike Safell. Like people underestimate the loss of a starting center, who calls out your protections, like picks out the blitzers, like all of that, and to break in a new one Like, granted, we had a backup center last year, and I think it was Cindric. But to bring in a brand new one, like just over fall camp, like it's not like they. I mean, who knows? Who knows what conversation went on behind closed doors? But as the public, we didn't find out that Safel was medically retiring until the week of fall camp. So if we're gonna go based on that timeline, it's like you have 4 weeks to pretty much cement a guy as your starting center now, instead of like all throughout spring and into the summer. Like, when Addy Ooms like left and he graduated, like they knew they had to replace him, so they probably spent all of spring and summer like figuring out who they wanted to replace him, and like not just promoting the number 2 guy, but after you promote the 2 guy, then you have to plug in someone else to play as the backup center now. So if we're going off of just like the public schedule, then it's like we're 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks into trying to find a center and a new backup center, which that's not ever good.
And of those that you've seen, or maybe that have happened more specifically, like on the field in fall camp, is there anyone that you think is out for the season?
Hard to say. I mean, like Coach Wilcox and like his coach speak, right? Like until they tell us like he's out for the year, we just won't know. And even if they're out for the year, we don't know what injuries they are out for the year for, right? We just know that it's a lower body injury and an upper body injury. So I don't think Wilcox has updated the media on any new injuries yet. That might change, I think, maybe on Saturday when we get scrimmage, and we can ask him about guys who didn't suit up on Saturday that we saw suiting up prior. But that's kind of where we're at.
And what you guys just heard was Rob not taking the bait that I put out there and answering that very professionally. Well done, reporter Rob. Well done. All right. Let's transition to overall. So now we're going to zoom out big picture.
All right.
I'm going to start it off with a fan question.
Okay.
This one is from my buddy Jay Coe. How do we match up against the top end of the conference?
I wish I could answer that like with a simple question or a simple answer, but I mean we're expecting. Okay, who are we expecting the top of the conference to be? Oregon, SC,
Yeah.
ASU.
Are they still allowed to play? What the hell?
I mean, who knows? I think they have three coaches on paid leave right now, so 3 position coaches. So we'll see how that goes. But at least from a talent standpoint and what they have on field, right? ASU, probably.
What about Utah? Is Utah still rebuilding?
I don't know. I actually haven't looked into Utah at all. So
And Colorado was good last year too, so I don't know if they're gonna be able to repeat it or not.
Carl Durrell, do you believe in Carl Durrell? Didn't they lose their quarterback? Didn't their quarterback transfer out after this past year? I think they did, because they have JT Shrout now. You remember JT Shrout?
I do.
Yeah, I think they have JT Shrout now. So yeah, I think they lost their starting quarterback, so they're replacing that too. And so I think UW is probably the other guy you're probably looking at. Although they have so many guys like injured or like transferring out that I believe they only have like 3 scholarship linebackers on the roster. Like they're in deep doo doo. Like they're in a lot of trouble.
The dark horse really for me is Oregon State.
Well, offensively, I don't know if their defense
Yeah.
is going to take a big step.
I don't know, but their offense is good enough to play with the best. So I think that we saw it last year that they have a good team.
I mean, but to be fair, last year, COVID, like, COVID.
We'll see, man.
Cool.
We'll see. That's my dark horse pick. All right. Okay. So let's just say the top in the conference, like it's the same teams that everyone is used to seeing, and we'll just set the expectations as like what the top of the conference was last year. I think it was Washington, Oregon, us.
I mean, what sucks this year, what sucks in any freaking odd year is like our home and away schedule is atrocious. Like we play so many of the good teams away. Like it's quite unfair how many good teams we have to play away. Because I believe we play at LA, so we get SC at home. And then we have to go to Oregon and UW and Stanford. Like all 3 are away. It's just the way it goes. I mean, We beat Washington when we went to Washington last time. Granted, it was the Lightning game with like a 3-hour delay. We almost beat Oregon when we went up there 2 years ago. And we it was one of those games that was winnable. And we ended up not pulling it through because we didn't have Chase because he was injured the week before. And so, yeah, it's just one of those crapshoot things. But how do we match up? I mean, Oregon's defense is going to be Oregon's defense, and Tim DeRuyter's now their defensive coordinator, so they're going to kind of know how Wilcox likes to make decisions, at least in certain situations. Granted, the offense is going to be totally different, right? But, like, you know, what type of situations do you have to put Wilcox in for him to make calls? Like, is he going to go for it here? Does he like to run it in these situations? Does he like to, you know? So that's the crapshoot, is that defensive coordinator with Yates over there too. Like, they know exactly what we want to do, and the talent level that they have on that Oregon defense compared to us too. I mean, let's be real. And that scheme is going to be devastating. Like, Kayvon Thibodeau might set records, in my opinion. So yeah, it's a big question mark, at least against Oregon. I think we have a really good shot at beating UW. I don't think that team's as good as people think they are, and they have a lot of issues around that team. SC is like the big one, right? Like, they don't have some of their like big wide receivers anymore, like the big name ones, but they still have a lot of talent, offense and defense. We'll get them here though, so maybe we could beat them, but I don't know. I think from if we were just to wrap up the question, like matchup against the top teams in the conference, I think we're right there in the conversation. I think we're on the cusp, and maybe it's all the sunshine that I'm pumping, but I think we're right. I don't think we're in that upper echelon of big, like the best teams in the conference yet. Could this be the year that we finally break through into it? Like, if we can knock off, let's say, 2 out of those 3 teams, right? Like, we beat 2 out of Oregon, UW, USC. I think you could say that we've entered into that upper tier of the conference. But we just,
I think you could say that.
We just haven't done it on a consistent basis enough, right? Like, we beat SC 1 year. Like, we beat Oregon 1 year. We've beaten UW 3 straight years. But like, we haven't done it like in a form or fashion that's like, oh, like they're for real, right? There's always a little asterisk in every single one of those wins. Like, we need 2 wins against 3 of those teams that are like cemented. Like, that's a win. Whether it was a defensive win or an offensive win, like, it's just, that's a win. There's no asterisk. There's no only a pick 6, like, you know, touchdown. There's no lightning delay. There's no like JT Daniels and like other guys like trash talking and, you know, giving us yards. Like, there's none of that, right? It's just flat out, we played a solid game and we beat them fair and square. We just need 2 of those.
What's your biggest concern going into week 1?
Offensive line continuity and gelling. They've moved around the offensive line guys a lot. And that's probably because over the first week, they just want to give as many guys as many snaps in every single position as possible. That's kind of what they've been doing with all the position groups. Coach Chris, the tight end coach, did say, I asked him about it, and he said, at least from the tight ends, what they've done is they let the older guys kind of pick and choose plays or like sequences that they want to practice or they want to showcase a little bit. And then the younger guys, they're just plugging into as many snaps as they can possibly get, just so they can get in the reps and just get that muscle memory in. It looked to me as if that's kind of the mentality across the whole team, across every single position group. So that's why the offensive line is a bit tricky for me, is because, okay, yeah, let's say that's in place, but at the same time, I'd kind of want to see the first team and the second team, or the first team offensive line and maybe like the 1.5s, right, to start gelling a bit, because you're replacing a center, because you're replacing potential one of your guards who is projected to start, right, in Gentle. You're gonna have to move some guys around, and Will Craig also has been nicked up. I think he's fine. I think there's not a big deal with Will Craig. I mean, as I said, we haven't been told that it's a long-term injury, so we have to just assume that it's not a long-term injury. So yeah, just one of those things where I just want to see them gel a little bit, and if we don't see the offensive line gel, I'll start slowly turning on the alarm clocks or the alarms. If on Saturday when we go to watch open practice again, like the offensive line like isn't looking good, especially if it's like light tackling, then I'm like, oh god, like this could be bad against Nevada if we don't get our shit together quickly.
And while we're on that topic of Will Craig, have you heard anything on the status of J. Mike or Jeremiah Hunter as well?
Well, Hunter was in a post-game presser, and he was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm good to go. They're just holding me back on a couple of things, but like they're all suited up. That's the issue. Like, they're all suited up, and they're like just like doing stretches and stuff on the side. So that's why for me, as like a armchair physician, thinks that it's not much, because why would they be out there stretching and getting warmed up, and like trying to get into, getting over whatever is nagging them to play if it was a long-term injury. I think if it was a long-term injury, they wouldn't be on the field. So yeah, once again, I don't have the answers to that, and that's where we're at. I think they're all fine. If you told me to put a betting line on it, I'd say all of them are fine, and all of them should be ready to go soon. That's probably where I would put it. And the way Jeremiah was talking at the presser was like, he was like smiling, like he wasn't sad or upset, like he was smiling, having fun. And I don't know how you can be like that if you're like injured out long term. Plus, they wouldn't put him on the banner if he was out long term. I think it's just a little nick here and there. As Hunter said at his presser, he's like, everyone at this point in camp is like has a little bit of like nagging injuries. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, the last question is kind of a fun one. How good did it feel to watch football again in person?
Oh, to be at Memorial, sunshine coming down. I have a tan line on my forearm and on my ankles. It's pretty bad. It's really bad. The ankle one is like really, really bad. But yeah, just to be out there in the sun, like I can't wait for game day. I absolutely can't. I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. Everyone back. Granted, I think everyone's going to be masked up. I'm not sure about what the guidelines are from the city of Berkeley, but it is full capacity. So however many people come out to Memorials, however many people come out. I believe it's a gold out game on September 4th, night game, 7:30, and I think the first 10,000 fans get like a rally towel. So it's going to be fun. And it was like when the first practice, I like walked through the North Tunnel and I like came and sat down in my seat. I was like, this is what it felt like. Like this feels normal again. And I'm not gonna lie, man. Like that first practice, like I had my practice notebook was like all over the place because my eyes weren't used to. Because I haven't been to practice in over a year, right? So my eyes were like adjusting to what am I supposed to watch for again? Like what am I supposed to be looking for? Like how am I supposed to write my notes down? It was an absolute mess. It was a disaster. First day, it was a disaster. That's probably why my notebook was probably the shortest, because of how badly I took notes.
Everyone's a little rusty on their first day, bro.
Oh
It's not just you. No worries.
Oh my goodness.
All right, finally to fan questions. You'll notice I sprinkled a couple of them in there, but we do have 2 more additional ones. The first comes from Sean McNally, and Rob, it is specifically addressed to you.
I think this is slightly addressed to you too. You definitely have a view on this.
The rumor is the Bears are going for the gold tops and the white pants for the opener. What are your thoughts?
Can you answer this first? I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, I know. So I guess the main thing for me is like they did the gold out for the, that's what I've been seeing is coins, just gold out. And I have a gold jersey. I just don't rock it as much.
Yeah.
And actually, Now that I think about it, is my 17 jersey? I think it might be a gold one.
It is.
So I might actually have
Yeah.
more than I gave myself credit for. I could always go check right now.
But how many
But-
how many Cal fans have like non jersey like Cal gold like
gold.
clothing?
I think my dad does. It's just definitely not the most like. It's more like the blue gold. I think color scheme, blue dominant, gold secondary is probably the most popular. I just am sad because I'm gonna wear my Deshaun Jackson white. That's it. It's already been decided. It's the number 1 jersey. It's the white jersey. So that's it. That's where I'm at. And I won't be golding anything out, which will be a bummer. Except maybe my hat, which will have a gold brim. Those are my thoughts.
So here's my thing. You're saying gold out, right? Why not wear all gold? Why wear white pants? Right? Am I the only one that thinks this? Like, we have gold pants. You've seen us wear the gold pants. Like, why not just go, like, wear the blue helmets, which is because that's the only helmets we have.
You really want us to look just like West Virginia.
I mean, I'm just saying for a gold out game, it, like, makes no sense to, like, half-ass it and go white pants. Like, why not just go full gold? And yes, we're going to look exactly like West Virginia. But then again, the other side is West Virginia looks exactly like us.
Yep.
So I think, yeah, I said, why would we go for the white pants? Just go for the all gold, man. It makes no sense. No sense to me at all.
There you go. All right. I was going to say, when was the last time we went gold and gold? But there's clearly a picture of Jared Goff wearing gold and gold.
Yeah, we did.
Against Arizona.
Yeah. We had like the all white look with Jared Goff with the blue helmets. We had the all gold look. We had the all gray look. We had the all blue look.
It was back in the Nike days.
Yeah. Do you remember like that jersey unveil? Do you remember who unveiled that jersey?
No.
It was Marshawn. They like gave I remember this distinctly. They gave like a box to Marshawn. He like opened it and it was like filming his reaction. Like it didn't show you what the jerseys looked like, but it just showed Marshawn and he's like, "Oh, these are dope. Like, the guys are going to love this."
Yeah. Remember that.
And that was how they unveiled those jerseys.
Have they ever rocked the gold top white pants?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's clean. I like it more than you, I think.
I think you do.
I think it's clean.
The gold top is nice. I'm just saying, like, why not just go for the all gold? Like, I mean, we ran the gold tops when we beat, the Washington State in the Ross Bowers like flip and the smoked out game like that. That's like still a memorable game wearing the gold jerseys.
Smoky game.
Yeah.
How many of those are we gonna have? All
I
right.
don't know.
Another day for that one. Thank you, Sean. Great question. All right, last question for you, Rob. Do we have any boosters that will pay our players? From my buddy Jayco.
I doubt it. And the reason I doubt it is because I think you know as well, like the NLI laws and like there's a big huge gray area at least this year, right? Because they're still like they like put it together really quickly, and it's like how are you gonna regulate any of what's going on, right? Like all these players are signing with agencies. Can you guarantee that the players that are signing with agencies are only being consulted on marketing deals? Like, can we guarantee that? I don't think we can. And then like Florida comes out with that thing of like, if you're a booster for the program, like you can't sign NLI deals with players. Like Florida came out and did that. And I think it was a way to get ahead of the curve of like, we don't want this thing of like the NCAA looking into us that we're paying or like, under the table, like handshake agreement with recruits and like saying, yeah, if you come here, like this guy's going to sign you up for his car dealership, with a, $8,000 deal. Right. Like, I think
what a disaster.
So I think that's why there's not going to be a lot of universities that have any ties with boosters in NLI.
Well, Rob, you made it through the gauntlet. It might have been as challenging as Hot Ones. Maybe not so much. You did a great job. We really appreciate you giving us the full report.
My mouth is on
The
fire.
depth. Should be. I think that was 95.5 right there. So appreciate your time. And this concludes.
Wait, am I being
our
kicked off the Golden Bear cast? Am I not being called back?
TBD. TBD. We're going to need a little bit more spice into some of those answers, not the program approved answers. Overall, that was great, Rob. Really appreciate you taking the time to do it. And for those that were listening, we hope you got a lot out of it. And we're only, I want to say, I was trying to do the math in my head.
2 weeks.
16 days.
Yeah.
2 weeks away from opening day. So this is right around the corner. The last open practice is this Saturday.
Yeah.
And then it closes. And we are on our way.
To be fair, college football actually starts in a week because we get Hawaii versus UCLA on the 28th, which is next Saturday. So, we can watch.
It's here.
We can watch UCLA.
I'm watching.
I'm watching UCLA. Maybe that's our Korean fried chicken night. Maybe that's fried chicken and watching UCLA get dismantled by
Obi
Hawaii.
Town.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all to our listeners. And as we always say here on the Bearcast, go Bears.
Go Bears.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.